12 Most Incredible Lifesaving Rescues. But first, thanks Yak for leaving us this comment on our Creepiest Places Found in Germany video. We're glad you enjoyed a few new things about your country. Number 12. Migrant May. Sailors of the British Royal Navy noticed a vessel that was in distress in June 2015, attempting to float from Libya to Italy. They found a total of 900 migrants floating on overcrowded vessels trying to escape the civil unrest in their country. Royal Navy personnel tends to the migrants before they are later dropped off in southern Italy. It was highly likely that the immigrants would have ran out of supplies or their overcrowded makeshift boats would have tipped over. They will occasionally run into smuggling gangs from other African countries, but it appeared as though they were mostly women and children seeking refuge. Luckily, the British Royal Navy was able to save the day. Number 11. Spaghetti the dog. A starving dog was taken to an animal rescue shelter in Granada, Spain in April 2016. Weighing under 16 pounds, rescuers discovered it just in time before it was too late. With bones protruding from its skin, the dog was on the verge of death. All of its muscle mass had whittled away to the point where it was unable to stand. Animal rescuers knew this would be a difficult task to properly nourish it back to proper health, but they certainly were up for the challenge. The dog was given the nickname Spaghetti because it was so thin. It took 7 weeks, but the dog ate as much food as it could, and they were astonished by how healthy it looked. It's a little bit hard not to get teary-eyed on this one. Number 10. Baby owl rescue. After hearing the screech of a baby owl while running along a trail in Pennsylvania, a woman named Cicely Tignon found an injured baby owl, and she hoped she could save it. The tiny little 1-month-old owl fell out of its nest, and its mother couldn't find it. It appeared as though it had been sitting there for quite a long period of time, and you really can't say no to an adorable baby owl. It was taken to a wildlife shelter where it was given fluids and some food. They don't plan on keeping it as a pet this time, and scheduled it to be released into the wild once again in the near future. Number 9. One Lucky Pup. A fire blazed at an apartment complex in the state of Maryland on March 11, 2016, and firefighters came to the rescue. Luckily, the fire was quickly contained before it got too out of control. A small white dog was seen being carried out from the burning building, and she seems quite happy about it. She's even seen with a huge smile on her face. She was saved from the second story of a building and dramatically rescued from the blazing inferno. Number 8. Orangutan Rescue Plan. The lives of many orangutans have been in danger due to the increased production of palm oil, and animal rescuers came up with a solid plan to save them. In 2015, more than 80 orangutans were saved from the jungle of Indonesia that was likely to be demolished by palm oil companies. As simple as it might be, they basically just got some wheelbarrows and pushed them around. It's amazing how tame they remain as they're getting pushed. Occasionally, an orangutan might fall out, but they remain pretty tame. They normally sleep in a designated location and then get trained on how to walk and play in different locations. Number 7. Avalanche Rescue. An Italian hotel was buried under the snow of a devastating avalanche that covered people under tons of snow in January 2017. There's usually 2 risks associated with avalanches like this: freezing and suffocation. Neither way is a good way to go. Rescue helicopters were sent and approached the area of Rigopiano in central Italy in order to help find signs of people who might need help. There was an estimated 30 people trapped inside. This woman here was finally pulled out and rescued from the rubble. In somewhat of a delirious state, we imagine, she asked for a cookie. Strange, but true. She was lucky to be alive, and only 10 out of 30 people were found. Number 6. A daring proposal. A man named Michael Banks climbed up a cliff in order to propose to his girlfriend from a romantic vantage point on FaceTime. However, he sort of found out that getting up here was a tad easier than getting down. He scaled up the 600-foot Morro Rock located in California in April 2016, but needed a little bit of help coming down. So they took a little extra caution bringing him back down to reality. A helicopter went to his location, strapped him up, and eventually lowered him down to safety. It seems like it was worth it in the long run, and his girlfriend said yes to his proposal. Number 5. Chairlift Catastrophe. The Rocky Mountains are certainly a beautiful place in wintertime, and people from all around the world come to this amazing mountain range to go skiing. But sometimes, disaster can strike. A victim got tangled up in the chairlift in January 2015 at the Arapahoe Basin. He was found hanging unconscious by his neck. The frightening scene was captured on tape, and luckily for him, a ski patroller spotted the incident and managed to cut him down. The victim says he doesn't remember anything from the entire event and the whole thing was just a blur. The man who rescued him claimed it was one of the scariest things he had ever seen in his life. Number 4. The Survivor. A 72-year-old woman in Arizona survived being stranded in the Arizona desert for 9 days and credits a survival course she went to. She said she took a couple of wrong turns on the highway, got lost, and her car broke down. As she began to get hungry, she managed to find edible plants and even a turtle to eat. She knew the plants were edible from the course she had taken where she carefully studied the desert. She managed to make a help sign from sticks and stones and started a fire. Luckily, a helicopter flew by and saved her. She was taken to a hospital in an ambulance to see if she had any illnesses, but she turned out to be okay. Number 3. Down the well. What would you do if your 5-year-old son was trapped down a well? How would you go about saving them? A child was playing outside his house in China when all of a sudden he fell 10 feet deep in a hole in the ground. Not only were they worried that he could be seriously injured from the fall, it was going to be a challenge to get him out of there. A firefighter was carefully lowered into the pit and rescued the child from danger. The boy was hysterical, wet, had a black eye, and was frantic, but after 11 minutes, he turned out to be A-okay. This kid might have been a little bit too good at playing hide and seek. Number 2. Oh dear. All lives matter, including deer lives. A young man in Bangladesh selflessly risked his own life in order to save one of a baby deer who was at risk of drowning from a surging river. Onlookers are amazed as he raises the baby deer into the air with one hand, almost like he caught the game-winning touchdown pass. The little baby fawn will now get to appreciate its life, and it was reunited with its family. They may not be able to express it verbally, but we're sure the deer's family appreciates what happened that day. Number 1. The Q Creek Mine Rescue. July 28, 2002, 9 coal miners in the state of Pennsylvania were trapped underground due to massive amounts of flooding. This was such a high-profile rescue that the location is now a historical site. They were underground when 50 to 60 million gallons of water rushed through the underground tunnels, when a wall was drilled into from a different flooded mine nearby, as demonstrated in this illustration. Elaborate efforts were made in order to save all 9 of these miners. They were removed one by one from a 22-inch wide cage from the rescue shaft that was dug up 150 feet deep. Here we see the dramatic moment at 12:30 a.m. when the first one to walk out was Randall Fogel, and it was a miracle for those watching. His first words were, "I've been down there for 3 days." The men claimed to be extremely cold from the frigid conditions. The lowest body temperature was recorded at 92 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 6 degrees well below the average. The final miner was lifted to the surface at 2:30 a.m. If you ask any of these men, they'll tell you that they're just not quite the same after this incident.